It's tough out there. This one is more for the small business system administrators, the people that are doing this commercially, because even though the supply chain is at apocalyptic levels of collapse, sometimes the server dies and sometimes you have to replace it. Most of the time you would just, buy a new server. Not really that easy currently. And you may have folks that depend on you to figure it out. I say this to my fellow computer janitors out there. It's sometimes at the small scale, sometimes at the really large scale. The heart of America has been kind of squeezed by technology, and it's like, oh, let's just try to get a few more years out of this. Some businesses are in the unfortunate position of, oh, it'll probably be better next year. We'll just wait. No, you shouldn't have. You should have upgraded. Should have listened. Should have listened to me. It was like, hey, we should upgrade. This is like 2 years ago. It's like, hey, we should plan our infrastructure a little better. Hey, we should do that. We're going to have to just build it. And it gets weird. We're going to do things that nobody likes. I'm going to start with the case. We're going to build a server in Silverstone's workstation case that's also rackable. You can convert it into a rack mount configuration. I'm going to configure it for the old under the table configuration because, again, small business. We're also going to talk about the CETA H2. The CETA H2 is on sale on Amazon, but it's in kind of limited quantity. So by the time I publish this, it's probably going to be sold out. I did a review on the CETA H2 a long time ago. I bought 2 more. There are many plates we must spin in the janitorial business. These are fantastic workstation cases because they've got 8 slots. So you can put a 2-slot GPU off the end if you need a little bit of GPU, or you got a 2-slot card, 2-slot 100 gigabit networking card, whatever. But this is a fun case. Its model is the WS380E. So it's not just the case, you also get 8 3.5-inch hot swap bays. It has 2 5.25-inch bays that are externally accessible, 3.5-inch bay, and a really neat front. But let's go put it together and then bring it back here and talk about parts choices, because that's also really tricky. If you can get a bare bones server, that's what it used. Like a long time ago, you would buy a chassis that had a motherboard and power supplies, and then you would bring your own CPUs and RAM. Sometimes integrators would sell you a system that had specific CPUs and RAM, and then you'd bring your own drives, an operating system, PCIe add-in cards. It's kind of that way again with supply chain headaches for small and medium businesses. Again, this is not for home labbers. And I know that the pricing and everything else is just completely out of this. We're not even building Zen 5. We're going to build a Zen 4 based system. And we're going to talk about Zen 3 and Ice Lake may actually still be like everything from Ice Lake on forward and everything from Zen 3 and on forward are still viable, perfectly viable in 2026, just depending on what problem you're trying to solve. If you're rocking a Socket 2011 server, which is what died, there's an open source project that was running on a couple of 2680 V3s. I'm trying to help them out. Hopefully we'll do a video on that project after Computex. But I'm trying to get this set up so that we've got something that can run a bunch of VMs for CI/CD because I've been squeezed out of the cloud and I am single-handedly trying to just keep it together. Let's build. So this is the workstation version of their case, and you look at it, it's like, wait a minute, this looks like a 4U rack. Yeah, I can't fool you. You can pop the side panels off and get a kit for it, but you probably should just buy the rack mount version if you want a rack mount. But this is a professional workstation chassis, and it has support for a 360mm radiator. If you watch this channel for a long time, you know that I love the Silverstone XE360, and I use it in a bunch of stuff. We're going to use the XE360 here. If you look at the mid plane of this case, it looks like, wait, we've got 3 pre-installed Silverstone fans. It doesn't look like this layout is going to support that, and cabling is going to be a nightmare. No, this bracket is removable, and you can remove it and mount your XE360. Now, because this is going to go under a desk in not exactly a server area, I am swapping the fans for quieter Noctua fans. The Silverstone fans can get quite loud. I think, but I'm not sure, I'm going to need to 3D print some ductwork to direct airflow over the memory. We've got our Supermicro XE14 motherboard with a 32-core Zen 4 CPU and 768 gigabytes of memory. Fortunately, they procured the memory for this upgrade a while ago, so they're not paying current, they didn't pay current prices for memory, but good Lord. We're gonna use a PCIe add-in card for U.2 storage, and then probably mechanical storage at the front in our 8 3.5 inch. The included drive hot swap bays, those are SAS 12. And so we're going to go to a SAS controller. Some motherboards have the mini SAS HD connection. That is designed for SATA, not SAS. SAS has better signal integrity and, again, longevity. So I'm going to add a SAS controller to this case for them to be able to use that. Also going to use an old Hercules 1600 power supply that I had laying around because it's a reasonable power supply. In order to do that, you have to take off a mounting bracket that is in the way of the power supply. Fortunately, you just have to pop the black side panel off, unscrew a couple screws, and then the power supply mounts just fine. This case does support redundant power supplies, like real redundant power supplies, not the redundant retrofit into an ATX footprint. The accessories that come with the case include several different brackets for the several different kinds of redundant power supplies. I would recommend splashing out for a proper redundant power supply, one that has a PM bus or an SM bus connection. You can run from that directly into the motherboard. Because the supply chain is as messed up as it is, our Supermicro H14 motherboard can be difficult to obtain by itself. Supermicro is pretty much just selling chassis, and they're selling every chassis they can make, which is wild. Build notes on this thing: it is a joy to build in. Most Silverstone cases are a joy to build in. The H2, the front drives crowd the motherboard a little bit. That's really the worst part of it, but you can take the drives out before you struggle with the oversized motherboards in those cases. Isn't the aesthetic nice? Now I know what you're thinking. Wait a minute, this is a tower case. It's got feet. That doesn't look rack mount. It's like Clark Kent. Now do you see Superman? You have a lockable top in front. It's got some airflow through here, and yes, the little squares do have a built-in dust filter, which is a nice touch. I really like this H14 SSL motherboard from Supermicro, and again, I'm sure Supermicro's preference would be to, it's like, oh, to get a bare bone or a full server. But this was much, much more cost effective to just DIY this. I think ASRock Rack is gonna show up in force here because ASRock has suffered a little bit more on the consumer side, and the production facilities are probably getting a workout from the production of everything else, which maybe will be a little bit of relief to the computer janitors among us, where it's like we have to replace a machine that has failed with something reasonably modern. And this is still Zen 4. No one would fault you for going Zen 3, and that's DDR4 memory, which is a better deal right now. The front is lockable and has a built-in dust filter. You can also choose whether or not, there's a punch out here that snaps in and out. And if you want to lock the front but leave the power button and USB accessible, you can remove this little door, and that's entirely possible. For the front panel, we have two 5 gigabit Type A, Type C headphone and microphone, as well as our power button. There's also an array of indicators for 2 LANs, fault, and hard drive activity. Our 3.5 inch drive bays at the bottom have green and purple indicators, which is nice. And then you can see our 2 5.25 inch bays and our 3.5 inch bays at the top. There's lots of little details. It would take way too much time to go over every single little detail, but there's tons of little quality of life improvements here. Like the midboard here that has the fans and the pump for the radiator have rubber mounting grommets, which will absorb a lot of vibration and a lot of noise. So in the workstation configuration, even though this is, you know, copy paste from a rack mount design where sound isn't a consideration, little details like that will help minimize the amount of sound from this. There's also a locking peg for the top cover, you know, pretty standard rack mount configuration, but it is toolless, so you can screw it together if you want. If you're going to rack mount it, you will have to pull off this top bracket as well, which is just a couple of Phillips screws back here. In terms of other expansion options, the motherboard has 3 MCIO headers. Those can be broken out for 2 U.2 connections each, so we could connect a total of 6 U.2 directly to the motherboard without using any PCIe slots. 0. Our 4 Memblaze 8 terabyte U.2 are in there temporarily just so I can do testing. The kind of plan is to use that as a fast ZFS pool, and then as much mechanical storage as we can get at the front for slow ZFS pool. This motherboard has built-in 10 gigabit Ethernet networking, but we're probably going to add an old Mellanox ConnectX 5 or possibly a new Intel E810 dual 25 gig adapter to this, and then bam, we've got a modern server. It's definitely more expensive than it would have been last year by a lot, but it's probably half the cost of a big name, big box provider, all in for the costs on this. Depending on what you're looking at online, because the whole market is depressed, cases like this sometimes are being sold at a discount. I get the Ceta H2s for just over $200 each, which is probably a bloodbath for Silverstone. But it's a good deal, so you should check it out. Oh, I also got a 1U. Let's take a look at the 1U. So it's pretty bare bones. You get 3 cooling fans. You don't even get the riser bracket that goes with this, and it's going to take a slimline power supply. But this is actually a standard power supply form factor, so that's not really a big deal. This is pretty inexpensive for what it is. Minis forum motherboard goes here. Right angle, just a cheap right angle cable goes here, and then I'll have one X16 expansion slot. I think there's going to be enough airflow front to back from our 3 fans that are mounted here to cool the built-in heatsink on that Minis forum motherboard. The Minis forum motherboard without a fan installed is just about 1U. So if that's something you want to see, or you want to see a configuration like for this build, let me know in the comments below if that's sort of exciting and interesting. I think that could be a good option for a home lab if you want to rack mount one of those and have it not take up a lot of space, because look, this is, you know, it's like not even half depth. I'm Whittle, this is level 1. We got a whole community of computer janitors. If you would like to show off your jank-tastic janitoring, we have a forum for that, and I love pictures. So I'm signing out, and I'll see you there.